Welcome back to the channel, everybody. How you doing? I just want to say I appreciate you guys being here. Today, we are going to talk about The Mask by Dean Koontz. Let's get into the synopsis first before we really dive into this book. She appears out of nowhere in the middle of traffic on a busy day, a teenager with no past, no family, no memories. Dr. Carol Tracy and her husband, Paul, are drawn to her, seeking to adopt a child in the girl they call Jane, the daughter they never had. It is almost too good to be true. Then the haunting begins, the half-felt horror, ghastly sounds in the night, a bloody face in the mirror. Where did Jane come from? Is she just an orphan in need of love, or a visitor from a dark place in hell? Who is the girl behind The Mask? I randomly bought this book when I went to Pittsburgh to visit my sister for Christmas. My mom lied to me and said that she gave me this book. She did not. So I bought it. I'm really happy I bought this. This is a really fun book. I'm on like a Dean Koontz reading thing lately. I wanted to try to read more Dean Koontz. I want to try to read at least 5 of his books this year, and I've read 2 of them so far this year, and man, The Mask is really good. Like the synopsis said, you have 2 of the main characters is Paul and Carol, but you also have this older woman named Gracie. This is not what I expected. The prologue was a whole different thing than the rest of the story, but the prologue interacted with the ending of this book in a really good manner, and it's like, oh, okay, this all makes sense. The ending of this book ends so abruptly that you kind of get whiplash, but I also kind of liked it. At first I was like, oh man, I really liked how the ending is. Now I'm not gonna spoil any of this. I really don't want to. I'm trying not to spoil things in books unless I really want to talk about it. But with this, I don't want to spoil this because I want people to read this book. It's a really good book, and I also just think Dean Koontz is such an underrated author, even though he has like a bajillion books and he is like a really good author. Like he is a popular author, but I'm talking about like underrated by booktube standards. I don't see him getting talked about enough on booktube. So I was like, we gotta talk about some more Dean on this. But yeah, The Mask is really good. I always have liked how Dean Koontz writes fast. And when I'm saying that, he writes detailed things, but it's such in a good way where the pacing is just so good in all of his books that he writes. Every book I've read from him, the pacing's excellent, and usually the story is just so good that you're just engrossed into it. I'm pretty sure I read this book in like 2 days. It's like 300 pages, but yeah, I'm pretty sure I read it in about 2 days total, and that was awesome. It's just the way that Dean Koontz can write a book is he's a wizard. Character-wise in this, I think most of his books, the main characters are usually women. And I would say most of the time, I think I've read probably 10 books from him now. I would say about 7 out of those 10 books, he does a really good job at writing the main character. And then you have the other 3 that it was hit or miss. But yet again, I mean, that's a pretty good percentage. But yes, most of the time he writes, the main characters are usually women. The other character is the husband or a boyfriend, a soon-to-be boyfriend, or they just have a romantic thing as a side plot throughout the book. This does a pretty good job at really encompassing the relationship between Paul and Carol, because they are trying to adopt. The whole book is talking about like supernatural things, which is a very Dean Koontz thing. Usually it's always a supernatural thing, and this is the first one that doesn't really involve police officers. Usually his books have police officers in them about 95% of the time. One of the characters is a police officer, or the character needs a police officer, and then the police officer is just in the rest of the story, and usually the book involves golden retrievers. Those are usually the things, but this one didn't have any of those, and I really liked it. I actually liked the character Gracie throughout this whole book. She's like in her 70s, and she's like an older woman that is seeing things or imagining things, but she keeps telling herself that she's not senile, which is just hilarious because she is getting to that age. She's in her 70s, so when she's telling people like things are going on, of course people might not believe her because they think, oh, it's just an old woman. So I kind of like those elements in this book where he slowly is just trickling through. Part 1 feels like a character buildup where you're really trying to be with these characters and understand them, and he does a really good job at setting a tone for that, especially right at the beginning of just wild craziness. Start off with the prologue, and then like the first like 4 chapters is just very violent, thrilling things that you kind of forget, like, you're reading. You're like, holy crap, I'm already 60 pages into this book. And he really sets the tone to that pretty fast. And like I said, in the first part, you're really feeling the characters, so then the second half, when things actually get wild, you really can relate to the characters. And I think Dean Koontz does a really good job with that, especially because he writes books that are either 150 pages or 400 pages, and they're all very quick, and he does just a really good job with his characters. And The Mask also does that as well. I really do enjoy this book. Now, I actually thought with The Mask it was going to be something so bizarre that involves literal mask, but this book took it a completely different route, and I kind of caught on to about 150, 160 pages. I was like, oh my gosh, I think I know what's going on. But I didn't know for sure, and then once it happened, I was like, oh my gosh, I was actually right. So it was a cool thing to see that, and I didn't know how the route was going to go, but I'm really happy to see where it is. I really did enjoy this book. It was a lot more fun than I went into thinking. And like I said, I usually try not to read the synopsis for any books just because I want to see what happens. Now, if I had to give a rating out of 5 for The Mask by Dean Koontz, I'd actually give it a 5. It's another 5. I think this spring TBR has been really electrifying for me. I would argue, I think only like 3 books, maybe. No, not even. I think it was just been One Piece where it's just been kind of weak. The rest of them all have been really, really good books. I'm actually really happy with my spring TBR pick so far. It's been awesome. I'm not gonna try and jinx it, but yeah, I mean, the only thing is, like, I'm reading Akatar soon, so Godspeed for that one. But regardless though, The Mask is a 5 out of 5. I really did enjoy it, and if you guys ever want to dive into Dean Koontz, just get a little taste of what he's doing, I would recommend this. I think every single one I've read so far that I post a review of, I'd recommend those books. They're just really good books from Dean Koontz. If you guys made it to the end of the video, if you guys made it to the end of the video, I do appreciate it. What do you guys think about The Mask? Have you read The Mask from Dean Koontz, or have you read other books from Dean Koontz that maybe I haven't talked about yet? I would love to know down below. And of course, if you guys have any Dean Koontz recommendations or any authors that are kind of like Dean Koontz, that it's not Stephen King, let me know down below as well. I would love to know some book recommendations that might be from Dean Koontz or someone else. Regardless though, I'd love to know. And last but not least, stay safe, stay humble, and tell someone you love them. I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay weird.